A flat engine is also known as a horizontally opposed piston engine, where the cylinders are located on either side of a central crankshaft. Most flat engines use a boxer configuration because the movement of the engine's pistons resembles the action of a boxer's fists in the horizontal plane. However, unlike the boxer's fists that both moves in the same direction, half of the boxer engine's pistons move in the opposite direction. Boxer engines have low vibrations since they are the only common configuration with no unbalanced forces regardless of the number of cylinders. Boxer engines do not require a balance shaft or counterweights on the crankshaft to balance the weight of the reciprocating parts. However, a rocking couple is present in boxer engines with fewer than 6 cylinders, since each cylinder is slightly offset from its opposing pair due to the distance between the crank pins along the crankshaft. An alternative configuration for flat engines is a 180-degree V engine, which has been used on most 12-cylinder flat engines. Flat engines have been used in aviation, motorcycle, and automobile applications. They are now less common in cars than straight engines and V engines with 6 or more cylinders. The advantages of flat engines are a short length, low center of mass, and suitability for air cooling. Compared with the more common straight engines, flat engines have better primary balance, resulting in less vibration. However, the disadvantages are increased width and the need for 2-cylinder heads. Compared with V engines with 6 or more cylinders, flat engines have a lower center of mass and a better primary balance than V6 engines. The most common flat engines are flat twin, flat 4, flat 6, flat 8, flat 10, flat 12, and flat 16 engines. Now let's take a look at these engines in details, starting with the flat twin engine. A flat twin engine is a 2-cylinder IC engine with the cylinders on opposite sides of the crankshaft, where both cylinders move inwards and outwards simultaneously. Most flat twin engines use a boxer configuration for the crankshaft and are therefore called boxer twin engines. In a boxer twin engine, the 180 degrees crankshaft moves the pistons in phase with each other. Consequently, the forces generated by one piston are cancelled out by the other, resulting in excellent primary balance. The evenly spaced firing order also assists in reducing vibration. A boxer twin engine's equal and opposite forces generate a rocking couple due to the offset distance between the pistons along the crankshaft. A commonly used ignition system is wasted spark, a simple ignition system using a double-ended coil, firing both spark plugs on each revolution, that is during both the compression and exhaust strokes. The boxer twin configuration can cause pressuring of the crankcase during each inward piston stroke and depressurization during each outward piston stroke. Since both pistons are moving inwards or outwards simultaneously, this crankcase pumping effect, also found on single-cylinder and 360 degrees parallel twin engines, is usually addressed using a crankcase breather. The Citroën 2CV boxer twin engine took advantage of this pumping effect to maintain a partial vacuum inside the crankcase to reduce oil leaks when an oil seal malfunctions. Carl Benz patented the flat twin design in 1896, and the first production flat twin engine was used in the Lanchester 8 HP Phaeton car, released in 1900. Other early uses of flat twin engines were the Ford Model A, Ford Model C, Ford Model F, and several Jowett cars models from 1910 to 1937. Also, in 1948, the Panhard Dyna X was released with front-wheel drive and an air-cooled boxer twin engine. Other cars following World War II using boxer twin engines were the Jowett Bradford van, DAF Daffodil, Toyota Publica, and Toyota Sports 800 sports car. Several rear-engine cars were also produced with boxer twin engines, originally designed for motorcycles such as the POG 500, BMW 600, and BMW 700. Transversely mounted flat twin engine in motorcycles. The benefits of using a flat twin engine mounted transversely with the crankshaft running perpendicular to the frame are a low center of gravity, and a belt drive or chain drive system can be used to transmit drive to the rear wheel. However, the downsides are uneven heat distribution. The front cylinder is more heavily cooled than the rear cylinder, and a longer wheelbase is often required due to the length of the engine. Douglas Dragonfly, Williamson Flat Twin, Harley-Davidson Model W, and in 1916, most flat twin motorcycles still used a transversely mounted engine. Longitudinally mounted flat twin engine in motorcycles. The main benefit of mounting a flat twin engine longitudinally with the crankshaft in line with the frame is that an air-cooled engine receives the same amount of cooling for each cylinder. The Harley-Davidson XA used a flat twin engine with cylinders across the frame and maintained an oil temperature of 100 degrees Fahrenheit, cooler than a Harley-Davidson WL, with a V-twin with the cylinders in line with the frame. A side benefit is that the cylinders protect the rider in the event of a collision or fall and keep their feet warm in cold weather. The downsides are that the engine cannot be mounted as close to the ground, otherwise, the cylinders can scrape the ground during cornering, and that it exposes the cylinders and valve covers to the danger of collision damage. BMW's first motorcycle, the BMW R32, was another early example of a longitudinally mounted flat twin engine. Over time, longitudinal mounting became more common for flat twin engines. BMW has a long history of flat twin engine motorcycles. In 1902, the Pierce monoplane was powered by a flat twin engine. Flat 4 engine. A flat 4 engine is a 4-cylinder piston engine with two banks of 2 cylinders lying on opposite sides of a common crankshaft. Most flat 4 engines are designed in such a way that each pair of opposing pistons moves inwards and outwards simultaneously. The terms flat 4 and boxer 4 are often used synonymously. A boxer 4 engine has perfect primary and secondary balance. However, the 2-cylinder heads mean the design is more expensive to produce than an inline 4 engine. Boxer 4 engines have been used in cars since 1897, mainly by Volkswagen and Subaru. They have also occasionally been used in motorcycles and frequently in aircraft. The advantages of the Boxer 4 layout are perfect secondary vibration, a low center of gravity, and a short engine length. The layout also lends itself to efficient air cooling, with the airflow being evenly distributed across the 4 cylinders. In aircraft, this avoids the need to carry heavy water cooling systems. The downsides of Boxer 4 engines are their extra width. The increased costs are associated with having 2 cylinder heads instead of 1. The long exhaust manifold is required to achieve evenly spaced exhaust pulses. Due to these factors, inline 4 engines are more commonly used than flat 4 engines, and V6 engines are often used where larger displacements are required. The typical firing order for a Boxer 4 engine is for the left bank of cylinders to ignite one after another, followed by the right bank of cylinders, with the firing interval evenly spaced at 180 degrees. The other common exhaust configuration is to pair the cylinders with a firing interval offset of 360 degrees to optimize the exhaust pulses, such as in Subaru since 2000s. This configuration requires long exhaust manifolds to pair the cylinders on opposite banks, resulting in a less distinctive exhaust sound. The 1926 Tatra 30 was the Czech company's first model powered by a flat 4 engine. The most extended production flat 4 engine is the Volkswagen air-cooled engine, produced from 1938 until 2006 and was most famously used in the rear-engined Volkswagen Beetle and Volkswagen Transporter. The Porsche air-cooled engine was used in the Porsche 356, Porsche 550, Porsche 912, and Porsche 914. By 2000, most manufacturers had replaced flat 4 engines with inline 4 engines. A notable exception is Subaru, with the latest iteration of its flat 4 engine, the water-cooled Subaru EJ engine, being available in the turbocharged form in the Subaru WRX sports sedan and its World Rally car counterpart. In 2012, a naturally aspirated version of the Subaru FA engine was used in the Toyota 86 rear-wheel drive sports coupe, This engine is water-cooled, has gasoline direct injection, produces 147 kilowatts, and has a displacement of 2.0 liter. Most motorcycles with 4-cylinder engines use an inline-4 engine layout. However, several flat-4 engines have been used in shaft-drive motorcycles. Zundap K800. Honda Gold Wing. BFG 1300, French, using the air-cooled Citroën flat-4 car engine, approximately 450 were built, with 1/4 of these purchased by the French police. Light aircraft commonly use flat-4 engines with displacements up to 6.4 liter from manufacturers such as Lycoming Engines, Continental Motors, and Franklin Engine Company. Flat-6 engine. A flat-6 engine is a 6-cylinder piston engine with 3 cylinders on each side of a central crankshaft, where each pair of opposed cylinders moves inwards and outwards simultaneously. The advantages of the flat-6 layout are: good engine balance, for reduced vibration, a low center of gravity, short length, compared with an inline-6 engine, and being well suited to air cooling. The disadvantages are a large width, which can limit the maximum steering angle when used in a front-engine car, a large intake manifold being required when a central carburetor is used, and duplication of the inlet and outlet connections for water-cooled engines. A Boxer 6 engine can have perfect primary and secondary balance. As in other 6-cylinder engines, the overlapping of the power strokes of the different cylinders, with a firing interval of 120 degrees in a 4-stroke engine, reduces the pulsating of the power delivery relative to that of similar engines with fewer cylinders. Early flat-6 engines include the Franklin 0265 and the Lycoming 0435, which began production in 1942. Some aircraft have used flat-6 engines initially designed for cars. The Porsche PFM 3200 engine was based on the engine used in the Porsche 911 sports car. Several examples of the Pietemple Air Camper, home-built monoplane aircraft have used the air-cooled engine from the Chevrolet Corvair compact car. The first car to use a flat-6 engine was the Wilson Pilcher 1824 HP, which used an engine based on a flat-4 engine with 2 cylinders. 2 American manufacturers briefly produced cars with flat-6 engines, the Tucker 48 and the Chevrolet Corvair. Both are rear-engine cars with rear-wheel drive. The flat-6 engine is often associated with the Porsche 911, a rear-engine sports car that has used flat-6 engines since 1963. Other Porsche models that use flat-6 engines are the Porsche 914/6, Porsche 959, and the Porsche Boxster and Cayman. Subaru produced water-cooled flat-6 engines from 1988 to 2019. Their first flat-6 engine, the Subaru ER27, was added to the model range of the Subaru XT Coupe. In 1991, the Subaru EG33 engine was used in the Subaru SVX. The Honda Gold Wing touring motorcycle has used a water-cooled flat-6 engine since 1987. Initially, the engine had a displacement of 1.5 liter until it was enlarged to 1.8 liters in 2001. Flat-8 engine. A flat-8 engine is an 8-cylinder piston engine with 2 banks of 4 inline cylinders, one on each side of a central crankshaft. The connecting rods for corresponding pistons from the left and right banks may share a crankshaft journal in a flat-8 engine. A Boxer 8 engine is a particular case of a flat-8 where each piston's connecting rod has its journal, and each pair of opposed pistons moves inwards or outwards simultaneously. Flat-8 engines have been used in automotive, aircraft, and marine applications. The advantages of a flat-8 engine are its minimal length and low center of mass. A disadvantage is its greater width compared to a V8 or inline-8 engine. A flat 8 engine is able to have perfect primary balance and secondary balance. One of the earliest flat 8 engines was used in the 1904 Buffum Model G Greyhound racing car, which used an engine based on two of Buffum's existing flat 4 engines joined together. A 2.0-liter version of the Porsche Flat 8 was used in the Porsche 718 WRS, Porsche 904/8, 906, 907, 909, and 910 racing cars between 1962 and 1968. In 1968, a new flat 8 engine called the Type 908 was introduced in the Porsche 908, which competed in the Group 6 prototype sports cars category. Porsche also installed Type 908 engines into two Porsche 914/8 mid-engine road cars. Lycoming GSO 580, Lycoming IO 720, Continental Tiara 8-380, air-cooled flat 8 engines are used in aircrafts. Flat 10 engine. A flat 10 engine is a 10-cylinder piston engine with 5 cylinders on each side of a central crankshaft. There are no known flat 10 engines that reached production. In the early 1960s, Chevrolet built several prototype flat 10 engines as part of an aborted program for a family of modular engines, to replace the Chevrolet TurboAir 6 Flat 6 engine. This development program investigated flat engines with between 2 and 12 cylinders, with the flat 10 version being known as P10, pancake engine. Although the program initially intended to develop an engine for the 1964 Chevrolet Corvair, rear engine with rear-wheel drive, the flat 10 version was fitted to an experimental 1962 Chevrolet Impala, a front-engine car that was converted to front-wheel drive. Flat 12 engine. A flat 12 engine is a 12-cylinder piston engine with 6 cylinders on each side of a central crankshaft. Flat 12 engines are less common than V12 engines, but they have been used in various racing cars during the 1960s, and in mid-engine Ferrari road cars from 1973. Unlike most flat twin, flat 4, and flat 6 engines, flat 12 engines typically use the crankshaft configuration of a 180 degrees V engine instead of a boxer engine. Therefore, most flat 12 engines have each pair of pistons sharing a crank pin instead of each piston's boxer design. Compared with a V12 engine, a flat 12 has a lower center of gravity, but because a flat 12 is wider, it is rarely used in front-engine cars. Porsche built the first known flat 12 engine in 1947 for the abandoned Cisitalia Grand Prix racing car. The engine, known as the Porsche TYP 360, was supercharged and had a displacement of 1.5 liter. In 1964-65, the Ferrari 512 F1 was powered by a 1.5-liter flat 12 engine competed in several Formula One races. Ferrari returned to using flat 12 engines in the Ferrari 312T, was introduced in 1975 and won the Formula One Constructors' Championships. In 1990, the Subaru 1235 flat 12 engine was built for Subaru's unsuccessful attempt to compete in Formula One as an engine manufacturer. In 1969, the Porsche 917 Sports prototype racing car introduced an air-cooled flat 12 engine. Alfa Romeo also used flat 12 engines in the Alfa Romeo 177, Alfa Romeo 33 TT12, and Alfa Romeo 33 SC12 Sports prototype racing cars. For the 1991 sports prototype racing category, Mercedes-Benz switched from a twin-turbo V8 engine to a naturally aspirated flat 12 engine for the Mercedes-Benz C291 racing car. During World War II, the British Covenanter tank was powered by a Meadows DAV flat 12, and the Churchill tank, by a Bedford flat 12 engine. Another military vehicle usage was the Panhard EBR armored cars during the 1950s. Flat 16 engine. A flat 16 engine is a 16-cylinder piston engine with 8 cylinders on each side of a central crankshaft. Flat 16 engines are less common than V16 engines, with only a couple of prototype racing engines using a flat 16 layout. These engines had 2 connecting rods per crank pin, so they could also be referred to as a 180-degree V16, rather than a boxer configuration used by most flat engines with 6 cylinders or less. Coventry Climax FWMW was a prototype flat 16 engine designed between 1963 and 1965 that was intended for use in Formula One. The Brabham and Lotus teams designed cars for this engine, but it was never raced. In 1971, Porsche developed a flat 16 prototype engine to use in the Porsche 917 that competed in the Can-Am Championship. The project was abandoned, and the Porsche 917/10K was instead powered by a turbocharged version of Porsche's existing flat 12 engine. So, why are flat engines not common on consumer vehicles? The probable reason boxer or flat configurations are not used very often in modern cars is because a straight or V engines are almost always a better choice. The most significant issue with a boxer is space, more expensive to manufacture and repair. Boxer engines are wide, cramming the engine into the bay also makes maintenance more challenging. For example, the spark plugs are often under an overhang and hard to reach. Any owner who doesn't try to fix the engine themselves translates into higher costs. The design is also inherently more expensive, because an engine having 2 cylinder heads is innate to the flat design. This in many cases doubles the number of head components, valve train components, and cooling jackets. Costs are further increased by the fact that boxer engines use oil very inefficiently without a dry sump system, especially compared to V engines, where pumping oil is simple and gravity-assisted. The big problem with flat engines is partly oil consumption and leaks, and it's hard to tell the difference. The complexity of the engines makes them more time-consuming to produce. Time to manufacture, expense, and maintenance challenges add up to a car that is not only pricey up front, but potentially pricey over time and would be very difficult to mass-produce unless you already knew what you were doing. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Before going, if you haven't watched our video on W engines, click this video and learn how W engine works.